These are some of the top components every athlete should know about strength training, speed development, and overall getting more explosive. Here's a brief summary of each topic, and then I'm going to go into each one individually with more detail. Strength training. Most athletes are always in season, so you have to be realistic with not only your expectations, but your actual training capacity. Should you lift 5 to 6 times per week with the bodybuilding split? Or should you just do 2 to 3 times per week? When should you start? Which lift should you be doing? Can you lift on practice days? I'm going to answer all of these questions. When it comes to getting faster, one of the most important things above all else, inside of training and even weekly practices, is you need to sprint as hard as you can, as consistent as you can. Those who sprint faster or closer to 100% effort more often over time, without a doubt, will be the faster athlete. Also, no matter what sport you play, you should be doing longer distance sprints. 15 to 30 yard short bursts are great, but don't neglect 40 and even upwards to 100 yards when it comes to speed development. You want to be more explosive? Even if you're not a jumping athlete per se, one of the most important things you can do is some style of jump training or plyometrics. The benefits are huge when it comes to injury prevention, quickness, and overall explosiveness. Those who can jump higher will on average be able to sprint faster and vice versa. Plyos and jump training are just another way to hack your system in order to not only get more explosive, but pretty much do everything else you're doing in your sport faster and quicker. Now let's dive into strength training, and I'm going to be saying some stuff you've probably never heard before. The first one being, when it comes to youth strength training, let's say the ages of 9 to 18, you have to be realistic with your overall setup of several things. Realistic on how many days per week can you actually train? In relation to, are you able to drive? Are your parents able to get you to the gym? What access do you have when it comes to equipment? We have to be realistic. It can't just be, this is the finite answer to the question. Training is also going to be competing with practices or game schedule, or how many days a week can you actually lift inside of an actual workout regimen that's going to work? Should you be lifting as an athlete? 100% yes. Not just to become a better athlete, but to start learning weightlifting and strength training so you can actually use it for the rest of your life. This is how you should look at setting up your training. Most athletes are always in season, like I said before. There might be a few weeks throughout the year that they're off, but again, let's be realistic. The average athlete is probably just going to take those days as downtime anyways. Because you are in season and at bare minimum practicing 2 times per week with games or tournaments on the weekends, you might have 2 to 3 days allotted as off days throughout the week. My suggestion is those off days become your weightlifting or training days. Simple, and inside of those 2 or ideally at least 3 days, you should be looking at doing full body workouts. And yeah, we can get more technical and say if you're more of an intermediate lifter, you should be doing more high-low training protocols. But that stuff for the sake of this video is just muddying up the water on some general information that really doesn't have to be that complicated. And to answer the other questions that I asked before, when should you start weightlifting? 9 to 10 is a pretty good spot. I've actually done a whole other video on this topic, either on my TikTok short form, go check that out, the link is in the description below, or a full video on this actual YouTube channel. Can you lift on practice days? Yes, you can. And actually, sometimes this can be more beneficial or ideal for you. As long as the training or the practices is not going to be too intense or too much in volume, weightlifting on your practice days can allow you to have other days to do other stuff or weightlift on those days or have another day off. Then the final and most common question I always get is, which lift should I do, reps, and set schemes? The simplest answer I can give to that without spouting off a whole program is pick 5 to 7 exercises per workout, full body, and stick with those each week on the same exact day. Start off with a simple 3x10, then per week start increasing the sets and switching up the rep ranges. Simple examples are for, let's say, a dumbbell bench on an 8-week program, do this. It doesn't have to be that complicated, especially if you're just doing it on your own. Next, getting faster and speed training. If you're not intentionally going out at least 1 time per week and actually working on speed development or sprint training, can you get faster? If you're not strength training, like we talked about before, can you get faster? The answer is yes. You can get faster without directly training other components by simply be sure during practice and games to sprint harder more often. Consciously, when going for a ball or making a play, sprint harder more often. Now, obviously, that's not going to be as effective as you go out and actually do speed training, like sprinting up a hill and then including some weightlifting in combination of this ideology. But think about it this way. No matter what your weekly programming is, let's take identical triplets, one who plays volleyball, one who plays soccer, and one who doesn't play any sports. Make them race. Who wins? Soccer, obviously. But why? They sprint harder more often. And that's really it. You take someone that's 3 years old and they've been playing to the age that they're 13. They've never done any speed training or weightlifting. The reason that they're going to be faster than the average sport or a different sport is because the amount of sprints they've done in comparison to that sport at high velocities for shorter and longer distances. It sounds almost stupid, but think about the faster kid on your team on average. It's probably also the one trying harder in games and practices, and there's a reason for that. So let's say you also want to start including weightlifting or strength training into your training regimen, and you don't know how. Well, after we go over plyometrics and jump training in the next segment, I'll I'll do a whole mock-up or template that you can actually utilize simply to start adding into your training. Last topic, plyos and jump training. There are two basic but important concepts to talk about when it comes to this topic. The first one is ground force reduction in relation to power output. Power as an equation is force applied over time. You are more powerful based on the amount of force, which in most cases when it comes to movement is the amount of force you can apply into the ground. Then when applying a great amount of force into the ground, you want the movement to be quick or done in the shortest amount of time possible in relation to ground contact time, or simply put as time on the ground, or a movement through a full range of motion. To make this a little bit less confusing, if you want to be a more powerful athlete, you need to be able to apply as much force as you can in the quickest or shortest amount of time as possible. Then the second concept we have to go over is triple flexion into a triple extension, and we're going to use a jump for this example. Triple flexion is when the ankle, knee, and hip go into flexion just like when loading a jump. All three joints flex. Then when executing a jump, the process reverses going into triple extension. The ankle, knee, and hip all extend. An athlete that can do this with more force, proper depth, and speed is not only going to be able to jump higher, but it translates in almost everything an athlete does. Sprinting, throwing a ball, hitting a ball, jumping, as in this example, at a base level, triple flexion to triple extension is the concept or component of the movement, and the faster you can do that and the more explosive you're going to be, the better athlete you are going to be. So when you take both of these concepts alone, it's pretty easy to see the benefits of plyos when it comes to ground force reduction and quickness, or jump training and explosiveness. If you really want to maximize your full potential, strength training is great, speed work is great, but when you add in this third component, it's the final link in the chain when it comes to the big three of sports performance. Yes, there's other things to include when it comes to sports performance, but if someone were to ask me, what are the big three components that everyone can work on? These are the three. To put this all together in a simple mock-up or a base level template that anyone can use, here you go. One of those days before strength training, do a warm-up and then do some speed work before your lift. That speed work can literally just be 8 to 12 sprints for 20 to 30 yards with a 1 to 2 minute break in between. Just be sure to sprint hard. Then on another lifting day before, do a warm-up and some jump work or plyos. One simple one is 3 to 4 sets of dumbbell jumps for 5 to 6 reps, and then after a 1 to 2 minute break and 5 to 6 max effort box jumps. This is a base level template. If you want to see more complicated speed work, speed training, or more plyometric jump training, go check out the channel. I've got a bunch of stuff on that. They're simply labeled get faster, do this, jump higher, do this. It's not that complicated, but they are a little bit more intermediate or higher level components that you can also implement. If you made it this far through the video, be sure to subscribe, check out any other of my videos, like I just said before, comment with any questions, and I'll see you in the next one.
I'm Harper, and this is the Edge Sports Performance. I don't know, what is it? What am I doing?
Perfect. What do you want to say? Go.
Okay, so this is this Edge, yeah, Sports Performance.